Hey guys, I'm Gareth from Tarts Anon. Today we're going to be cooking my sour cherry, pecan, whiskey, and Alto del Sol chocolate tart. Alright, so we're going to work the flour and the butter together until it forms a texture similar to that of almond meal. And once we've got that texture, we're going to add our cold water slowly to the mixture. And then once it's all come together, we can then tip it out onto the bench and then finish that process by hand, trying our best not to overwork it. Once we've got that dough formed, we're able to let it rest in the fridge for about 12 hours. And from then we're going to be able to run it through our very own Techno Stamap sheeter from Vanrooy. But essentially what we're going to be doing is taking our short crust pastry, we're going to run it through the belt a few times, we get a bit of length of pastry, we'll rotate it 90 degrees and run it back through the opposite direction until we get a nice round disc. And a tiny bit of flour right at the very end to make sure that that's not sticking to those blades and rollers. We should be getting a nice uniform disc at the end of this process. Let's hope. So we've allowed our dough to rest again overnight, and at this point we're able to work quite flexibly with this, as the resting has formed some good strong bonds between the gluten, the water, giving it a little bit of malleability, so we're able to be quite firm with our pastry. So using some rather delicate movements, we're just going to move it into the sides of the tart shell. We're then going to take a sharp knife and then remove that excess. Right, so we're going to take a piece of aluminium foil, we're going to place it over the top of the tart, and using those same sorts of motions, we're really going to work the aluminium foil right into those corners. The idea being that the rice is going to act as the weight and really get into those corners to support those shells. So when it does bake, we're going to have plenty of support for the pastry, so it's not going to fall down and shrink, and therefore giving us nice tall edges to maximize on filling. Okay, so our tart shell's been baking for about 25 minutes at 180 degrees. Once we allow this to cool, we're going to remove the aluminium foil and the rice insert to our beautiful pastry shell underneath. We're then going to remove this shell from the tin, and using a microplane, we're going to remove some of those rougher edges to give us a nice aesthetically clean finish. The first thing we're going to put into the bottom of the tart shell is this morello cherry jam. So to make this, we're going to take the cherry puree with some sugar and pectin. We're going to bring that up to a boil and cook it to 107 degrees. Once it's reached 107 degrees, we're going to add some citric acid and some chopped amarena cherries. This is going to be set and then spread on the bottom of the tart shell once it's cooled. So next we're going to be making the chocolate ganache, which is going to go on top of the tart. Now, what I love the most about this Alto del Sol chocolate was the fact that it had these beautiful smoky and peaty notes, as well as that red fruit acidity right at the end, making a perfect combination with whiskey and cherry. So once we've brought our liquids up to the boil, we're going to add our chocolate and whisk till emulsified. Once this is fully combined, we're going to stick blend it and then set it into a container to cool. Once it's cool, we're going to have it in the fridge for 12 hours and then you're going to whip it up the next day to pipe on top. So first we're going to spread our sour cherry jam over the base of the tart shell. We're going to add our pecan cake. The pecan cake made with pecan puree and brown butter, a little bit of white sugar, some soft brown sugar, mix in with the egg, and then we're going to emulsify those fats in, and then to finish off, just a little bit of flour, almond meal, baking powder and salt, and mix until just put it together. So once all of those cherries are placed on top of the tart, this can go into the oven for about 25 minutes at 165 degrees. We're going to cook that full fan, get a really nice caramelization on top. Right, so the cake's out of the oven, and whilst that's cooling, we're going to get ready with our next step, which is the pecan gianduja. So a gianduja traditionally made with milk chocolate and hazelnuts. For this one, we've actually made our own pecan puree. So once we've got some milk chocolate melted, and we can start bringing that down with pecan puree. The reason for that is so that when we add the next bit of ingredients, we're not going to be melting any of the chocolate on the outside of the crisp pearls, keeping it nice and crispy, as well as getting nice punctuations of dark chocolate throughout. So to this we're going to be adding our crisp pearls, our fouilletine, a bit of salt, but also some candied pecans. Right, so remove the cake from the oven. We've now got our gianduja, which has come down in temperature, should be perfect for spreading on top of this cake. Then using a palette knife, we're just going to spread this to all edges. This is our Alto del Sol whipped ganache, again with that really deep, smoky, peaty flavour, as well as those nice red fruit acidity right at the end. And then we've got that into a piping bag with a round tip, and we're just going to pipe some dots on the edge on top of our gianduja. So we're going to cut our tart into 10 slices. So to do that, we'll cut the tart in half to start with and then count out the notches. So for this tart shell, there are 64 notches. So we're going to count out 6 and a bit. And so we use a hot, sharp and wet knife to glide through the soft cream, through the crunchy gianduja, the moist cake, and then the crisp pastry underneath to get a nice clean slice. And that's it, guys. That is our sour cherry, pecan, whiskey and dark chocolate tart. That's pretty good.